I was the legendary strong female lead. When I caught my husband cheating with my best friend, I didn't cry or scream. I just tossed out a casual line. "This man is all yours." My friends praised my dignity, saying I was decisive and letting go gracefully, a true protagonist, stepping out of a novel and into reality. But the story didn't lead to a happily ever after for me. After a brief public outcry, the couple simply got married. The next year, my best friend gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl. My ex-husband successfully launched his startup and became immensely wealthy, turning them into an enviable, happy family. As for me, shortly after the divorce, I was consumed by an emotional backlash. The trauma and humiliation burned me alive, and the collapse of my faith in justice sent my life into a downward spiral. My career and relationships faltered, and my life hit rock bottom. After a long period of lethargy, I was struck by a car while crossing the street. On my deathbed, my former friend, Alexandra, came to see me, her expression pitying and wistful. "I know you always prided yourself on being the strong female lead, so I specifically orchestrated the scene that day for you to walk in on us." I died filled with regret and bitterness. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at the cheating scene. No, not quite. I was lying in an operating room, barely clinging to life. Moments ago, the doctor had gravely informed me that my injuries were too severe to save. I vaguely thought, just let me die, when high heels clicked softly, and Alexandra walked in. She was dressed elegantly, her skin glowing, looking even younger than she did 8 years ago when I caught her in bed with my husband. She looked at me with sorrow and pity. "Stella, I never thought you'd end up like this. Fate is so strange. After all this time, it's me seeing you off. Since that's the case, I'll use this time for a full confession. I didn't know why she was here. I wanted to turn my head away, unwilling to look at her, but I couldn't move, because I was dying." Alexandra sat down by my bed, sighing softly, and began speaking on her own accord. "I fell in love with Ryan at first sight, but for those years, I could only watch you two date and marry, watching you live a better life than me. You could casually buy a bracelet that cost my month's salary. I couldn't understand why, when we had similar backgrounds, similar degrees, and similar looks, Ryan chose you instead of me, just because you arrived at that coffee shop 10 minutes before I did. So I decided to correct the situation myself. I managed to sleep with Ryan, but when he woke up, he was remorseful and miserable. He actually offered me money to keep it from you. Later, even though he couldn't resist and slept with me a second and third time, he regretted it every time." She chuckled softly. "That just wouldn't do, would it? I knew you always prided yourself on being a great protagonist. You always said if your husband cheated, you'd never cry or go crazy like other women. You'd just file for divorce and never look back. So I begged Ryan to sleep with me one last time, and I deliberately made sure you caught us." I stared at her, stunned. After the divorce, I quickly discovered that the fierce independence was temporary. I soon plunged into emotional turmoil, tortured daily by the trauma of intimate betrayal and social humiliation. Later, seeing them marry, have children, and succeed wildly in business was sheer torment. I stopped believing in love, couldn't continue my work as a wedding designer, and feared starting a new relationship. My life spiraled downward. This contrast felt like torture, leading to mental anxiety, self-doubt, and spiritual collapse. I was burning inside, unable to sleep. I thought my misery was just bad luck, my own weakness, and I even despised myself for giving up. I never imagined it was all due to a calculated scheme. "Thank you, Stella. You didn't disappoint me. Your pride and dignity allowed us to save face, which is why Ryan and I managed to recover so quickly. Of course, I should thank myself most. After all, I did so much work, including imitating your mannerisms in front of Ryan, paying people to get you fired repeatedly, and even," she suddenly smiled, "going to an international sperm bank beforehand and choosing a donor who looked just like Ryan, ensuring I got twins." My frail body had no strength left, but at that moment, her words made my eyes snap wide open. After my quick divorce, Ryan still begged me to stay, weeping, saying he only loved me, asking for one more chance, and swearing never to see Alexandra again, until Alexandra announced she was pregnant with his child. Anyway, these past few years, especially after having the two adorable babies. Ryan started loving me more and more. He genuinely fell in love with me. Stella, I finally got to live your life. I changed my own destiny with my own hands. It was just a little sad that no one knew the truth. Thank goodness. Fate gave me this chance to confess before you die. Stella, seeing how honest I've been, I hope you don't blame me when you pass. Rest peacefully. She stood up elegantly, her face radiating satisfied delight. Oh, right. Are you wondering why I'm here? My favorite peach pastry shop closes at 9. My driver was rushing because he was afraid I'd be disappointed if I missed it. I hope you don't blame him. It was an accident. And he might even suffer psychological trauma because of you. Of course. I will legally and reasonably compensate you. After all, even maximum compensation, barely costs the price of one of my handbags. Except, she tilted her head, looking troubled. You're alone now, without a single relative. Who should I pay the compensation to? She smiled, shook her head, and elegantly walked out on her high heels. I closed my eyes amidst the silent screams of my soul. When I woke up again, I found myself standing outside a second-floor doorway. Laughter and chatter floated up from my friends gathered downstairs. Inside the room, two naked bodies were passionately intertwined, punctuated by heavy breathing. I froze for 2 seconds, then slapped myself. It hurt. Good. It hurt. The next second, I shrieked with all my might. You shameless wretches. Filthy pair. Two flushed faces turned toward me simultaneously, panting. The moment Ryan saw me clearly, his pupils constricted, his body convulsed, and he frantically completed the act. Alexandra let out a soft groan of submission, then instantly yanked the blanket over both of them, saying in a hoarse whisper, Stella, please don't be rash. It's all my fault. I seduced Ryan. Please don't blame him. Yell at me. Hit me. Whatever you want. Aim it at me. In the past, Alexandra had said the exact same words. At that time, I was a successful wedding designer with both career and family flourishing. For me, love and marriage were sacrosanct. If a man was soiled or unfaithful, he was immediately worthless. So, despite feeling rage, disappointment, and disgust, I acted like a strong female protagonist in a novel. I looked at them with disdain and contempt, throwing out the icy sentence. This man is all yours. I didn't even enter the room before turning and leaving downstairs. Now, Alexandra's eyes flickered as she watched me, clearly anticipating the same reaction. But I lunged inside. First, I grabbed the water kettle from the table and hurled it at Ryan. Thud. Hot water splashed him. He yelled, clutching his face. At the same time, I agilely moved around to Alexandra's side, kicking the clothes on the floor under the bed with my left foot. I placed my right foot against the bed frame, grabbed a handful of Alexandra's long hair, and dragged her out with all my strength. That was her meticulously cared for. Proud long hair. Thick, long, and perfect for gripping. This whole scheme was initiated by her. The reckoning should start with her. I twisted my wrist, cinching the hair tighter, and then delivered 20 rapid slaps to her still flushed face. When one hand got tired, I switched to the other and slapped her 20 more times. This sequence of actions was seamless and instinctual, as if coded into my DNA. Half of Alexandra's body was suspended in the air. Her previous seductiveness was gone. She stared up at me in terror, making continuous, panicked gasping noises. During those nights of emotional breakdown, I regretted countless times why I had acted so high and mighty. Why hadn't I humiliated them instantly? Why hadn't I broadcast their rotten affair to the world? After practicing in my mind repeatedly, I knew nothing felt better than slapping and hair-pulling. When the friends downstairs, drawn by my screams, rushed up, they witnessed this scene. I was holding Alexandra's long hair, pulling her desperately outward as if in a tug-of-war. Alexandra, completely naked, desperately clutched the blanket. Ryan, covering his face with one hand, reflexively pulled the blanket's other end to hide his naked body. The three of us formed a peculiar, tense tableau. The crowd at the doorway stared, dumbfounded. We were supposed to be spending the weekend together at a rental house. I was initially planning to arrive tomorrow due to work, but Alexandra called, saying Ryan was drunk tonight, so I changed my mind and rushed over. At this moment, Alexandra hung half-suspended, her face swollen like a pig's head, issuing muffled pleas for help. Help me. Please help me. No one moved. Everyone wore expressions of disgust and contempt. But it hadn't been like this the last time. They hadn't witnessed the affair directly, only grasping the situation through our expressions and scattered words. Seeing it versus not seeing it changes everything. The visual impact is different. The degree of disgust is different. In fact, years later, when Ryan succeeded and Alexandra became a wealthy socialite, those same people had commented admiringly. You two proved that true love conquers all obstacles. Stella, please, calm down. Ryan's voice trembled. His head above the neck was blazing red, bright blisters forming on his usually handsome face. His hair steaming slightly. He looked like a cooked shrimp. The first time I met Ryan, Alexandra was late for our coffee date. I opened my laptop to work on my thesis. Ryan, sitting at the next table, smiled and asked me, "Are you a design student?" 2. Alexandra was 10 minutes late that day. Ryan and I chatted intensely, immediately drawn to each other. So much so that when Alexandra arrived, I didn't even notice the burning look in her eyes as she gazed at him. Ryan was an art gallery designer. Everyone saw him as gentle, kind, talented, and highly empathetic. He even kept cat food for the stray cats on the street. But his soft-heartedness was a flaw. In the previous life, he knelt before me, weeping and confessing. He claimed that Alexandra had once gotten drunk, confessed her long-time secret love for him, and sworn she had remained chaste for him. She cried that she didn't ask for marriage, only one night together. He refused many times, until he found out she was contemplating suicide, and only then did he momentarily agree out of pity. I felt utterly sickened and only wanted to distance myself from that repulsive pair as quickly as possible, finalizing the divorce within a month. Now, I only regretted that I had but 2 hands and couldn't rush over and tear the blisters on his face one by one. But I couldn't rush. I had only one chance to deal with Alexandra. If she escaped, there might not be another. And Ryan, he had to come home with me. How can I calm down? I sneered at him through gritted teeth. His face was flushed, his eyelashes trembling, and he spoke with deep shame. Stella, let go of her first. Let us put on some clothes, please. I smiled coldly. You want to be the hero? I made a vow with Alexandra that if either of us did something unforgivable to the other, the victim would get 30 slaps. I've delivered 20. I'm tired. You deliver the remaining 10. And I'll let her go. Ryan shook his head frantically. Stella, I don't want to be the hero. Hit me. Alexandra suddenly cried out. I seduced Ryan. I drugged him. In the shameless wretch. In the mistress. It has nothing to do with him. Hurry up and hit me. My stomach. My back can't take this anymore. Her voice was tragic and helpless. On one hand, she was trying to gain sympathy from Ryan. On the other, she genuinely couldn't hold on much longer. After all, she was carrying twins. My friends crowded the doorway, occasionally offering useless advice like don't be rash or talk it out. But no one moved. They were all absorbed in the spectacle. I expected Ryan to hesitate. He was, after all, a kind and sensitive person. But before Alexandra's words had even finished, he pulled the blanket around him and moved next to her. Then, slap, slap, slap. The sound rang out crisply. When one blow landed too lightly, I raised an eyebrow slightly. Ryan immediately increased the force. A look of surprise and pain crossed Alexandra's pig-swollen face. Blood sprang from her nose. But she had planned this meticulously, and she got what she wanted. After the 10 slaps were done, her distorted face squeezed out a pained smile at the panting Ryan. I don't blame you, she spoke indistinctly, looking at him with the eyes of a tragic heroine abused by evil forces. But Ryan turned his face away. 2 seconds later, he looked at me, his gaze trembling. Stella, is that enough? I remained expressionless. Of course not. You gave me this disgusting cuckold's hat. If I only hit the mistress and not you, people will call me a male worshipper who only bullies other women. Ryan immediately nodded, closing his eyes and lifting his chin, speaking with heart-wrenching pain. Stella, do it. Just get this out of your system. Then we can go home and talk properly. I looked at the increasingly bright blisters on his face, feeling like an unpleasant liquid would squirt out if I touched them. I changed my mind instantly and looked down at Alexandra. You do it. She looked shocked, then shook her head sadly. No, no. Ryan suddenly roared. Hurry up. Do it. Anything is better than this. So, in an awkward position, Alexandra tearfully began to slap him. Are you two flirting? I asked. Ryan grit his teeth. Harder. When Alexandra retracted her hand, I noticed a viscous stain on her palm. Finally, the ugly spectacle ended with Ryan wrapped in a blanket and Alexandra wrapped in a sheet, crawling on the floor, fishing their clothes out from under the bed. My gauge of vented fury finally showed 1/10 filled. Going crazy was necessary. It was about spitting out the bitter resentment I had swallowed for the sake of false dignity. But since I had been reborn, I couldn't just go crazy. Could I? Losing face. Who cares? People forget quickly. Ryan was an independent designer who had worked in the art world for years. He was talented and published. This scandal wouldn't ruin him. It would merely become a romantic anecdote people mentioned when discussing him. I knew Ryan well. The most important thing in his life was his career. In the last life, Ryan secured a major seed investment from an art investment group, successfully launching his startup. He became a self-made millionaire, and Alexandra became a socialite. In fact, the plan he later used for that funding was already being designed now. Before he was caught cheating, we often discussed concepts and ideas, and I sometimes helped him complete scene designs. I could still be a strong female lead, but not a stupid one. Looking unfazed and walking away was only superficial. A true protagonist uses every resource available, turning it to her advantage, leveraging his power to achieve her goals. I was going to change destiny. Ryan's destiny. Alexandra's destiny. My own destiny. After Ryan knelt before me for 3 days, one evening, I sighed, looked out the window, and turned to him, looking sad and wronged. Are your knees hurting? He froze in disbelief. Then his eyes lit up with joy, his voice trembling. Yes. Stella, are you finally willing to talk? That night, he kept repeating how much he loved me, claiming he only pitied Alexandra, and the intimacy had given her an opportunity to take advantage. I asked him, my eyes red, did she really drug you the first time? He nodded without hesitation. Yes. I was silent for a few seconds. I planned to resign. What happened has made me question marriage and love. I can't face newlyweds who are so hopeful. Ryan looked sad but said softly, it's all my fault. But it's okay. I'll support you. I'm currently in talks with an investment group. I'm confident I'll succeed. I looked at him and said slowly, but I don't want to give up design. If I can't be a wedding designer, teach me your industry. His eyes lit up. No problem. Stella, I'll teach you everything. We can start a company together, a husband and wife team, and enjoy success together. How wonderful is that? I lowered my gaze and whispered, yes. The next day, he transferred all his design files and notes to me and started preparing lesson plans. As I said, he was highly talented. During the day, besides work, he took care of all the housework. In the evening, he poured his heart out, teaching me everything he knew without reservation. We slept in separate rooms, which he readily accepted, saying with a forced lightness, it's okay. Stella, I believe one day you'll completely open your heart to me again. During this time, I didn't forget about Alexandra. She worked as a teacher at a public kindergarten. I paid someone to set some of the things she had shouted during the confrontation to music, and had the cheerful, catchy jingle played repeatedly through a large speaker outside her kindergarten. I seduced Ryan. I drugged him. I am a shameless wretch. Alexandra, am a slutty mistress. The tune was catchy and addictive. Anyone who heard it once could sing along. A crowd of parents gathered outside the kindergarten before dismissal, discussing and humming the tune with great interest. The music stopped only when the children emerged. Alexandra snuck out through the back door. She lived at her parents' condo, but a similar speaker was playing the loop there as well. Her parents were furious and wanted to call the police, but she stopped them. I knew she was enduring it, lying in wait, because she still had one trump card left. Ryan was Catholic and had stated repeatedly in front of friends that life was sacred and abortion was a moral sin. Before my car accident in the last life, the successful Ryan had come to see me. I was in a very negative state then, having lost a lot of weight, I coldly told him to get lost. He smiled uncaringly, handed me a card, and spoke with the measured stability of an influential man. Stella, regardless, I love you. I truly want to share my success with you. But Alexandra gave birth to my children. I can't let my flesh and blood grow up without their birth mother. I know you're struggling financially. I can buy you another house. I need to be with the children on weekends. But I can make time for you on weekdays. I used the floor cleaner to chase him out. Looking back now, Alexandra was indeed meticulous. She knew she couldn't secure Ryan solely based on herself, so she targeted the children factor. One day, I came home to find Alexandra sitting on the living room sofa. Ryan stood beside her, frowning and sighing deeply. Seeing me enter, Alexandra immediately looked alarmed. Without a word, I rushed toward her, ready to tear into her. Ryan held me back. He looked at me with difficulty, finally spitting out, "She's pregnant with my child." Alexandra spoke through sobs. "Stella, I'm sorry. I had no choice but to come here. He is the baby's father. I had to tell him." I turned to Ryan. "Do you believe her?" Ryan lowered his head and whispered, "I do." "Why?" His face turned red. "The first time we were together, she was a virgin. I could feel it." Alexandra suddenly dropped to her knees, weeping, swearing on her life. "Stella, we were best friends. You know I've never dated. If I'm not carrying Ryan's child, may I never find peace in the next life." She looked at me, her eyes flashing with naked provocation and calculation. I knew she was baiting me, waiting for me to collapse, lose control, and scream for a divorce. The fact that I hadn't filed for divorce after the confrontation must have shocked and confused her. So, after a period of silence, she played her trump card. The version of me she expected would never tolerate her husband having illegitimate children. At that moment, Ryan paused, then slowly knelt down as well. "Stella, I beg you. I am willing to transfer all pre- and post-marital assets into your name. Please, let these two innocent little lives survive." I looked at the two people kneeling before me. I paused, covering my face with my hands, my voice filled with sorrow. "I'm not a cruel or malicious person. Since things have come to this, then, let them be born." Alexandra's head shot up, her eyes wide with shock. Ryan was overwhelmed with joy, excitedly getting up to hug me. "Don't touch me. My heart is hurting too much." I sidestepped his embrace, then said with reddened eyes, "We were married. I can't be the villain who prevents two lives from entering this world because of me." Ryan's eyes welled up too. He then rushed off to call his parents. Only Alexandra and I remained in the living room. She stood up, watching me with profound intensity. I sat in the rocking chair, slowly moving, watching her in return. We had known each other for years and understood each other deeply. She was never the type to accept humiliation quietly, and I was never the type to suffer in silence. The last confrontation was chaotic. She was unprepared, and I was only focused on getting revenge. My subsequent actions had gotten her fired from the kindergarten, kicked out of her parents' home, and scorned by her friends. She endured all of it in silence, because she knew clearly Ryan had feelings for me. The more miserable and pathetic she appeared, the more likely she was to gain his sympathy and get him to agree to keep the children when she used the pregnancy as the final weapon. She wasn't rushed. She had planned for a long time, paid a heavy price, endured humiliation, and proceeded slowly but surely. In fact, she had succeeded. The Alexandra I saw before my death was elegant, bejeweled, and every inch the pampered wife. But now, she was still the desperate, scheming Alexandra. "You've changed. You used to claim you were the master of your destiny, but now you can accept your husband's illegitimate children," she said slowly, laced with sarcasm. I tilted my head at her. "I don't know if I've changed. But, Alexandra, did you become this despicable and self-degrading later? Or were you always this person, just better at hiding it before?" Her face was strained, her voice dark. "Things have reached this point. Say what you like. Stella, I just want to warn you. I tolerated everything you did to me recently, but that doesn't mean I won't fight back. The children in my belly are 4 months old. 2 formed little lives. If you pretend to be the good person but secretly try to harm my babies, I won't forgive you." I chuckled softly. "Don't worry. I'm not as dirty as you. Let me put it this way. You know I have emotional cleanliness issues. With what Ryan has done, I probably can't stay married to him. But I can't lose both the man and the money. Can I? If he transfers all his assets to me now, I'll divorce him immediately. A strong woman doesn't keep a cheating man. But money, I won't give up a single cent. In the previous life, I was so disgusted I just wanted a quick, clean break, ignoring the financial details, which left me economically vulnerable when my life later collapsed. Now, my plan was clear. Divorce, get all the assets, and the children must be born. Hearing I was willing to divorce, Alexandra's eyes immediately lit up, then showed a subtle hint of ridicule. She was mocking my short-sightedness. Ryan was a blue-chip stock. He had a promising future. His current assets were expendable chips in her game. As for his affections, she was confident in the power of the children. I had seen the twins in the last life. They resembled Ryan so much that anyone would assume they were biological. She must have spent considerable effort finding the right donor. I had to admit she was dedicated. However, Ryan wasn't stupid. He wouldn't make the idiotic move of transferring all his assets before the babies were securely born. As for getting me to divorce him, that was up to Alexandra's abilities. For now, I had planted the seed in her mind. Alexandra was deeply cunning and ruthless in pursuing her goals. I believed she could make it happen. Just a few months. I could wait, satisfied that she understood my position. Alexandra left to focus on her pregnancy. To demonstrate his loyalty, Ryan never visited her once, but he did summon his parents. He rented a large house for them to move into and care for Alexandra. The elderly couple were too ashamed to face me, only sending me a text message saying the Chens were grateful to me, and the child I would eventually bear would be the true firstborn heir of the family. I nearly laughed out loud reading that. For a while, everyone settled into their prescribed roles. Ryan became busy, preparing for an investor meeting 6 months away. He worked at his studio during the day and taught me exhibition design at night. His life was improving. It was as if the minor scandal had instead allowed his life to bloom in a new, exciting direction. And I focused on 2 main tasks. The first, I found a woman named Eliza. She was Ryan's competitor in the industry and had designed many successful exhibition cases. However, due to her plain appearance and a severe stutter, she rarely presented her work publicly. In the previous life, during Ryan's peak success, I saw news online that she was suing him, claiming he had stolen her designs under the guise of cooperation. But the story gained no traction. Although I had mastered Ryan's design techniques, methods, and philosophy, I still needed real-world cases to attract capital. I found Eliza in a rundown house in the city slum and was surprised that such a talented person lived there. She wore thick glasses and explained calmly, "I can't secure projects myself. The money I get after the split is meager." I asked if she wanted to collaborate. She watched me from behind her lenses. She was a smart, sensitive girl. I had seen her portfolio, quiet, high-end, and conceptually brilliant. But society had elevated external appearances to an undue height, leaving no place for people like her. After a day of consideration, she agreed. "I want to succeed. I want absolute control over my work. And I want my designs to be seen on a bigger stage." I admired her ambition and honesty. The second task. I sold the condo my parents left me, combined it with the $30,000 I had saved, and put it all into Bitcoin. It was 2017, and the price of Bitcoin was about 15,000 renminbi. In the previous life, just before my death, I remembered the price had reached 120,000 US dollars. Reborn. I needed revenge. But I also needed to make money. No investment was more straightforward or offered a better return. I bought 200 Bitcoins. I memorized the password until it made me feel sick, certain I would never forget it, even in the next life. Then, I put the matter completely out of my mind, as if it had never happened. Bitcoin appreciation would take time to mature, but the situation with Alexandra was nearing its conclusion. When she was 8 months pregnant, she gave birth to the twins. In the middle of that night, Ryan's knocking woke me up. He stood outside and said, "My parents are at the hospital and insist I come over. I'll check the situation and be right back." He didn't return for 3 days. I ignored it, busy modifying the design proposal with Eliza, spending all my time in her rundown apartment. As I spent more time with her, I realized she was incredibly knowledgeable, mentally quick, and engaging. Being with her was comfortable. I felt she was intellectually accommodating me. A mutual friend went to the hospital to visit and called me when she returned. Stella, I truly feel sorry for you. The twins look exactly like Ryan, like they were carved from the same mold. His parents are beaming, calling them precious grandchildren. The doctors and nurses all comment on what a happy family they are. On the fourth day, I returned from Eliza's place and found Ryan sitting on the sofa, his expression complex. He was frowning, hesitant to speak. I asked about the children. His eyes suddenly reddened, and he knelt before me. Stella, I'm so sorry. My parents threatened suicide these last 2 days, forcing me to come and discuss something with you. I looked at him. What is it? You know my parents are from a small village. They said they can't let the children grow up labeled as bastards, or they'll be disgraced back home, and the kids will be humiliated their whole lives. So, they asked me to come back and discuss. He closed his eyes, his voice trembling. They want me to fake divorce you, marry Alexandra to give the children official registration and a proper lineage. Once the baby shower is held and the children are a little older, I'll divorce her and remarry you. I didn't speak. He opened his eyes, seeing my silence. He crawled on his knees toward the coffee table, pulled a document from his bag, and handed it to me. Stella, I know this is humiliating. So I signed a property agreement stipulating that all my pre- and post-marital assets are transferred to you. This is my guarantee as your husband. Don't worry. Once this whole business with the children settles down, and my funding is secured, I will give you a proper, grand marriage ceremony again. I took the document and looked down at it. After a moment, I looked up. Alexandra agrees. He looked slightly startled. Why would she need to agree? We are both sinners in your eyes. She feels deeply guilty, and she hasn't said a word against any of these arrangements. I sighed. Things have reached this point. What good would my disagreement do? It's all for the 2 innocent little lives. Stella, don't worry. Even if we fake divorce, I will visit you often. We can still be as we were before. Hearing him sorrowfully repeat the exact words he spoke in the last life, I couldn't hold back a cold laugh. You mean, I should become your mistress, while you enjoy the happiness of having 2 women? His face stiffened. Of course. Of course not. My stomach suddenly revolted. The next day, we went to the courthouse to file for divorce. Both parties were in a rush. He was in a rush because the divorce had a 1-month cooling-off period, and they wanted to get married before the twins' 1-month celebration. I was in a rush because I was simply in a rush. Ryan felt guilty toward me and quickly completed the asset transfer procedures. This confidence was largely due to the massive financing deal he believed was imminent. During this cooling-off period, Eliza and I took a trip to Coastal City. We returned just as the period expired. I met Ryan and a post-delivery Alexandra at the Civil Affairs Bureau. They were holding the 1-month celebration tomorrow and wanted to finalize the divorce and get remarried today. They truly couldn't wait. Ryan looked at me blankly. Stella, I heard you traveled to clear your mind. Are you feeling better now? Quite well. Alexandra looked at me dismissively, with a hint of cold mockery already possessing the arrogance I saw in her the first time I met her in the afterlife. As Ryan walked away, I spoke suddenly. I once asked Ryan if he would have fallen in love with you if you had arrived at the coffee shop 10 minutes earlier. Alexandra's eyes twitched, clearly invested in the answer. I smiled, speaking slowly. He said no. I asked why. Since back then we looked so similar, people often mistook us for twins. Guess what he said? Alexandra pressed her lips together, staying silent. I didn't mind and continued. His exact words were, I don't like complicated women. There's too much confusion in Alexandra's eyes. She listened, her expression composed, her voice steady. Stella, are you saying this to provoke me? If so, you underestimate me. You might look down on me, or talk about women not competing with each other. But I am goal-oriented. I only know that I wanted this man, and now I have him. After today, I am Ryan's rightful wife, not you. As for whether he loves me, the future is long, and that's up to my own skill. I smiled at her. Are you sure the future is long? The next day, I attended Ryan's 1-month celebration party. His parents loudly announced to everyone, they married ages ago. We kept quiet about it and caused so many misunderstandings. Our Ryan is too soft-hearted, concerned about his ex-wife's reputation. When I walked in, guess who knew me looked awkward? I pretended not to notice and walked straight up to the beaming Ryan. Stella, I can't believe you came. His expression held a hint of surprise and delight. I smiled. Of course I had to come in person to witness such an important day. Not far away, Alexandra saw me and started pushing the baby stroller toward us. She had to pause frequently to greet people who stopped her. I handed a document to Ryan, speaking gently. This is the documentation for Alexandra's artificial insemination 9 months ago in another country. Consider it my congratulatory gift. Ryan took the document and scanned it. After a long pause, he looked up blankly. Why would she need artificial insemination? I looked toward Alexandra, who had just reached us. Her expression alert. You'll have to ask her that. With that last sentence, I turned and left. The next day, Eliza and I returned to Coastal City. I sold the house and the car. This time, I didn't buy Bitcoin. Instead, I used all the money to finance an art gallery renovation in Coastal City. It was a dream design that had long resided on Eliza's computer, the same design Ryan had stolen in the last life and later won an award for. Eliza's eyes were slightly red. I once asked God why he gave me the ability to dream but not the ability to realize it. Now I know. Heaven chose the best way for me. Thank you for finding me that day. For the next few weeks, Eliza and I stayed in Coastal City. Ryan called and texted me countless times, as did Alexandra. I ignored all of it. I immersed myself in the world Eliza built, enjoying the beauty of high art, temporarily ignoring the mess. Until one day, while having dinner with a potential investor, I ran into an old friend. Stella, what are you doing in Coastal City? You won't believe the bomb that dropped. Those twins aren't Ryan's children. From her, I learned what had happened recently. The day after the celebration, Ryan took the children for a paternity test. Reportedly, the moment he saw the results, he collapsed to the floor. That day, Alexandra was thrown out with the 2 newborn babies and returned to her parents' home. Ryan's parents, enraged that their son had been so grievously wronged, showed up at Alexandra's parents' complex daily, wailing curses and demanding compensation. Alexandra's parents, equally furious, came out and screamed back. Ryan's parents were rural and didn't speak the local dialect well. They were completely verbally overpowered, driven by anger. They both suddenly collapsed. Initially, people thought they were faking it, but when help finally arrived, one's mouth was twisted left, and the other's mouth was twisted right. They both suffered strokes. A few days later, Ryan shockingly brought Alexandra and the children back, claiming that since they were married, they were family, and the stroke victims needed care. One night, I suddenly got a text from Alexandra that just said 911. I called back strangely, but Ryan answered, saying she must have accidentally hit the emergency button while carrying the baby. Ryan came looking for me again, just asking if I knew where you were. Apparently, he's contacted everyone we know. He looks so different. He used to be so gentle and cheerful, but now he looks incredibly gloomy. The same evening I returned from Coastal City, I saw Ryan downstairs near my new apartment. I didn't recognize him at first. Despite his expensive suit, he was thin and gaunt, his face dark and withdrawn. His entire demeanor seemed still not the calm stillness of peace, but the quiet before a storm. I frowned. How did you find my address? I asked the realtor who sold your old condo. I had been in a rush to finance the Coastal City deal, so I used the same agent for selling and buying. He stood in the shadows, staring at me intently. Stella, I don't blame you. I gave a cold laugh. He ignored my attitude, his voice measured. I was the one who wronged you first. It's fair that you sought revenge. Stella, we love each other. Everything that happened was Alexandra's fault. A meticulously designed plot. She also harmed my parents. Sooner or later, I will make her pay the price. I was too soft and kind before, which allowed Alexandra to manipulate me. That's an artist's nature, but a man's weakness. It won't happen again. I'm glad. Stella, we are even now. Everything can still be salvaged. My financing is about to be finalized. It's a huge deal, worth hundreds of millions. I didn't tell you before because I wanted to surprise you. Once we have the money, all problems disappear. The old house is sold, but I'll buy you a bigger one. I'll hire people to care for my parents. They treated you badly, so I know you wouldn't want to. And the children. Stella, we will have children that truly belong to us. He didn't linger. After saying his piece, he turned and left. I remembered the last life, being repeatedly fired and forced to work as a waitress at a restaurant. In that private room, Ryan and his friends didn't recognize me behind the mask, but they talked about me. Ryan, didn't you say you still had feelings for Stella? Why do you manage to get her fired every time she finds a job? Ryan chuckled softly. Stella was my first love. We had beautiful memories. Of course I have feelings for her, but she's too proud. She divorced me without a word because of Alexandra. I need to break that pride first. Only after she's sunk into the mud will she be grateful to me when I reach out to pull her out. And she'll know how to cherish me. In the last life, he pushed me into the mud. In this life, I would let him climb high before he fell hard. The real revenge against Ryan was not harming his body or reputation, but destroying the capital he relied on for his survival. What did this man value? His career, his money, his wife, his children, and his masculine pride. I wanted him to experience the crash from the heights. I wanted to smash everything he owned and cherished, right in front of him, piece by piece. Making him suffer wasn't revenge. Making him tumble from a jar of honey into bitter gall, that was the pain that pierced the heart. The final strike arrived. The moment Eliza and I appeared at the investor meeting. Ryan's expression was one of complete disbelief. He quickly composed himself and even made a joke in front of the assembled investors. Is Ms. Eliza truly going to present? As far as I know, your stutter is quite severe. If needed, I can step in for you. I smiled. Eliza is the chief designer of my company. I will handle the presentation. Ryan's eyes darkened instantly. Eliza had once tried to overcome her speaking difficulty. I told her that a person should focus on what they excel at and avoid challenging their weaknesses unnecessarily. Her talent was design. The rest, I would cover. Ryan had been an excellent teacher. His unrestrained instruction during that time allowed me to field every question during the presentation. Finally, when I played the live video of the Coastal City Art Gallery on the big screen, the investment team's faces registered satisfaction one by one. Coastal City was an international art hub. Market validation there meant the model could be replicated nationally. As applause erupted, Ryan's face turned corpse white. He looked as if his bones had been suddenly pulled out, collapsing into his chair. As I walked out of the conference hall, I didn't spare him a single glance. 2 months later, Eliza and my design company, Eliza Stella Design, successfully secured its first round of financing. I hadn't seen Ryan since the meeting. The day after he showed up downstairs, I moved again, telling none of our friends my new address. I believed this defeat was fatal to him. A cornered dog lashes out, and I wasn't going to put myself in harm's way. I heard that after transferring all his assets to me, he had taken out a massive loan, fully confident he could pay it back immediately. Now, all his hopes had turned to dust. But this was the karma he deserved. That day, I finished a meeting with an investor at a cafe and was about to drive away. Alexandra suddenly stood in front of my car. She looked utterly changed, emaciated, her skin ghost white. She rushed toward me, her eyes bloodshot. But her plea was, Stella, please tell Ryan to let me go. I was wrong. I shouldn't have made you divorce him. I apologize to you. I'll bow and kowtow. Just please tell him to release me. Spare my life. I was surprised and lowered the window halfway. Her eyes were panicked and desperate. She frantically tore open her collar, revealing a vast patch of bruising. He's insane. The only thing he does every day is torment me. He threatened that if I run, my parents and the children will suffer. Stella, he loves you most. Go talk some sense into him. I don't want anything. I'll raise the children myself. I just want him to let me live. Watching her break down in agony, I was speechless. She had once so proudly boasted about stealing Ryan and becoming his legal wife. Now, she was desperately begging me for help, just to escape Ryan. Suddenly, she shuddered, turning her neck stiffly to look behind her. Not far away, Ryan stood beside a car. His face was obscured, but he was watching us. Alexandra screamed and turned to run. Ryan calmly got into the car and started the engine. Then he slammed the accelerator and drove toward her. Amidst screams from the crowd, Alexandra was thrown high into the air, tracing an arc before crashing onto the pavement. Lying motionless, blood pooled on the ground. The car didn't stop. Ryan, seemingly in a state of frenzy, drove straight toward another direction. A line of kindergarten children were standing frozen by the side of the road. People screamed. I yanked the steering wheel and floored the gas pedal. I had died once before. What was one more time? I gritted my teeth. I drove Heaton into Ryan's out-of-control car. In the massive explosion, my consciousness faded. The last thought that flashed through my mind was, my 200 bitcoins. What a waste. I opened my eyes and found myself lying in a hospital bed. A young nurse looked surprised and was about to speak, but I interrupted her with a weak voice. Is this 2025? The nurse looked confused for a moment, then nodded. Having read too many novels, even though my body couldn't move, my mind was racing. A dream. A life review. Or had I been reborn again? The nurse was delighted. You are so lucky. Your heart had stopped. But then, in the blink of an eye, it started beating again. The entire next day, I lay in bed, recalling the events that had just transpired. If it was a dream, why were the details so vivid? The knowledge of art gallery design in my mind felt so clear and logical. I even remembered every ingenious detail of the coastal city exhibition hall. In the evening, Ryan appeared in my hospital room. He was the successful CEO Ryan of this timeline. Polished, confident, and refined. Stella, you are alone and vulnerable. Anyone can take advantage of you. Consider being my mistress. After all, we were once man and wife. I suddenly asked him, what is the key to exhibition traffic flow? He paused, then answered immediately. Achieving a balance between natural guidance and free exploration. My heart hammered. That answer was exactly what the dream Ryan had taught me. And I had absolutely no prior knowledge of that in this life. I struggled to grab my phone and called my roommate to bring my laptop. Ryan smiled, asking, why are you suddenly asking me professional questions? I looked at him and spat out one cold word. Get out. He left with a cold sneer. It seems you haven't suffered enough yet. Half an hour later, my roommate had a courier deliver my laptop. I painstakingly opened it, logged into the website, and entered the password string imprinted on my soul. I closed my eyes, opened them, and hit the confirm button. BTC 200.00. I stared at the screen for a long time, then let out a deep breath. I had successfully taken revenge on Ryan and Alexandra in the previous timeline, but I still regretted the fate of the other Stella in that parallel worlding so helplessly and tragically. And the people who hurt me were still living happily in this other space. Perhaps my act of trading my life moved heaven. Fate had been kind to me. I was back, and I brought back a colossal fortune. Over the next few weeks, I dutifully cooperated with the doctors while constantly building my to-do list in my head. 1 month later, I found Eliza in the city slum apartment. This time, she agreed to my partnership offer almost instantly. I asked her curiously why she trusted me so quickly. She thought for a moment and said, for years, I felt instinctively that I was waiting for someone. That feeling kept me going, stopping me from giving up on myself. My eyes misted slightly. Then I smiled brightly at her. Well, I'm here. Thank you for waiting for me. At this time, the exhibition industry was dominated by Ryan's standardized model. His slogan was 500 Ryan Art Aesthetic Exhibition Halls across the nation. He had signed a major debt-for-equity agreement with international capital, betting his entire fortune. 3 months later, a new exhibition design company, Eliza Stella Design, suddenly emerged in the industry. Unlike Ryan's standardized model, its philosophy was, art exhibition halls must possess a personalized core and refuse to become standardized industrial products. With capital backing, Eliza Stella Design rapidly established a presence in major cities nationwide. 1 year later, Eliza Stella Design replaced Ryan's as the preferred venue for artists across the country. Ryan failed his bet and was heavily in debt. Then, I sent him a private investigator's report. Epilogue. Ryan suffered a sudden stroke. The doctor said he had a family history of cerebral infarction, making his stroke risk much higher than normal. but it was still rare for someone so young. Reportedly, when he collapsed, he was tightly clutching a paternity test report. Tit for tat. I also went to the hospital to see him. He lay rigidly in bed, his eyes and mouth distorted, struggling to push out muffled, slurred words. She hit me. Call the police. She hit me. Stella, please, help me. I leaned in and whispered, this is between you and your wife. How can an outsider like me intervene? She's your wife. At worst, it's domestic abuse. Let's not bother the police. As I turned to leave, his eyes were filled with pain and despair. 2 years later, it was Eliza's birthday. I went to the market to buy groceries, planning to cook her a birthday feast myself. A commotion erupted at a nearby stall. I turned and saw Alexandra. She was caught stealing spare ribs and was being chastised by the vendor. You're young. Go find a decent job. Why resort to petty theft? Alexandra's face was drawn with worry. She pleaded softly. I've had bad luck. I've been fired from many jobs. My husband is paralyzed, and I have 2 children. I truly had no choice. At one point, she met my eyes. Shame, fury, jealousy, and bitterness simultaneously flashed across her face. I walked over and whispered a sentence into her ear. Do you know why you've been fired from every job for the past 2 years? Her eyes widened abruptly. I smiled. Tit for tat. Enjoy your suffering. As I walked out of the market, I heard Alexandra scream behind me. I sighed, a wave of melancholy passing over me. I couldn't decide which was worse. Ryan and Alexandra dying together in the other life, or being stuck in this life, indebted and tormenting each other. But either way, they deserved it. Halfway to Eliza's mansion, I encountered a school letting out. I stopped far back, letting the children cross first. While waiting, I suddenly recognized the intersection. It was the very one where Ryan and I had crashed. At this moment, a line of middle school students filed past my car. They were vibrant and smiling, waving at me one by one. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. I raised my hand, waving vigorously back at them.